starts with your blood sugar dysregulation, because that can lead to a cascade of a different midlife symptoms and then chronic disease down the road.
And to me, the biggest miss was, how do we get analytics that make sense for our body? Just because you ate a meal that doesn't have any carbs doesn't mean you didn't have an inflammatory reaction to that food. If that inflammatory reaction does happen, your glucose will spike.
If you love diving into the latest wellness secrets on the podcast, then you're going to want to join my exclusive weekly newsletter. Get insider wellness tips you won't hear anywhere else. Be the first to know about my upcoming fasting workshops, because let's be real, fasting is the secret weapon for surviving perimenopause. Access my weekly essentials, tools, and biohacks to help you thrive in midlife. I promise to make it worth your while, straight to the point, no fluff, just powerful tips to help you feel your best every single week. Don't miss out. Sign up now at thewelldrop.com. Let's take your wellness to the next level together. Welcome back to The Well Drop. If you're a woman over 40 and you've been struggling with stubborn belly fat, brain fog, afternoon crashes, or waking up at 3 a.m., there's a good chance it's not just your hormones, it's your blood sugar. And no one's ever shown you how to actually fix it. Sugar is at the root of so many chronic diseases, and it's also driving some of the most frustrating midlife symptoms. But here's the problem. Most continuous glucose monitors give you a bunch of numbers and graphs and leave you to figure it out alone. I know, because I've been there. That's why when I met Boris, the co-founder of Theia Health, I knew I found something different. Theia doesn't just track your glucose, it makes simple, personal, and actually actionable tips. And now we've partnered with them to give my clients and the Well Drop community the answers that they need and truly deserve. In this episode, Boris and I talk about why most CGMs are failing women in midlife, how Theia turns confusing data into life-changing insight, and the one thing you can start doing right now to get your energy, focus, and metabolism back on your side. Let's drop in. Thank you, Boris.
Thank you so much, Amber. It's a pleasure to be on the podcast and the show.
I'm really, really thrilled to have you on today. I don't know if you remember, but when we first met, I was actually on a mission. I wanted a better continuous glucose monitor. I'm going to just use the term CGM because it's easier.
Perfect.
Experience. And I felt like one of the ones that I was using, I tried, there was only like 2 that you could actually order as a consumer. It kept falling off from my workouts, and adding your food was super annoying. So I simply didn't do it.
Yeah.
And I had to go off of my memory based upon what I ate. So I don't know if you remember, but what went through your mind as you listened to my complaints?
What was going through my mind was, this is the best conversation I'm going to have all day.
You're like, you just stepped into the right place.
I was like, why don't you become my sales rep right after you said that? So jokes aside, I was excited because, I was on a mission similar to yours, obviously in a different way, on understanding how we can use technology at a higher level. Like, we use technology in every way to track, whether it's your phone, your car, your ads, your metrics for your website, for your business. Like, we have all these analytics for everything. And to me, the biggest miss was, how do we get analytics that make sense for our body? Like, why are we not all in as a human race, optimizing our biology and our body and using AI for our body? And because whether you believe in an afterlife or not, doesn't matter. Today's body is your body, right? So it's like, why don't we optimize this one and have it for the longest time possible in the healthiest way possible? So when you were saying that, I think the frustration amongst people in general is, especially new technology, when it comes out, it's never optimized for somebody who's busy or who doesn't really want to know all of these numbers or what they mean, right? They just want to know, how am I doing? How did my decision impact my health? How does my practitioner or whoever I'm working with know and understand what's going on? Like, most people don't care about the science. They just want to know that the science is accurate, but then what do we do next? And so that was like the spark of our first conversation.
Spot on, because literally the people, my clients, my community, they all come to me, and I think they love the Well Drop because they're like, Amber, just tell me what to do. And that is my role in this universe, is to figure it out, which is what I had to do for women in midlife. There is no roadmap on
Right.
what do we do? And so I basically created that. And for me, the starting point is truly connecting with your cycle and throwing on a continuous glucose monitor, because you can't feel when your sugar dysregulation begins. And it's a huge thing. So much changes in midlife, but like if you're getting to the root cause, which is like how I always like to look at things, it starts with your blood sugar dysregulation, because that can lead to a cascade of a different midlife symptoms and then chronic disease down the road. And like if we wait until it's showing up in our labs, for me at that point, you got like Mount Everest to climb. Like, why don't
Right.
we start sooner than you even think you need to? Because most people don't think they even need to in the first place. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
that's fine if you think you don't need to, but just throw it on anyway. So at least you can learn
Yeah.
about, I say, set your baseline, learn how your body is responding. So then you can actually catch to see that it's changing. Right.
100%. And I think your point is spot on. Like when there's blood sugar changes, a lot of people don't notice. Even if they notice, they think it's just a headache or they ate something or didn't sleep properly. It's like, and once you're doing this all the time, it becomes normal. You kind of just forget that it's happening.
Yeah.
And so you just are like, well, I'm pretty good. And you're like, nothing could be further from the truth. But your body just got used to feeling that way. So that's what you think your normal is. And then once you see the data, you're like, oh, wow, like I'm not even close to, how healthy I thought I was.
Yeah. I mean, I will say I've been, using CGMs now for a couple years, that this fall for me, fall of, what are we in, 24, my blood sugar went crazy. And it was
Mm,
interesting because I just turned 45, but at age 44, there's scientific studies that came out that you age the most at age 44 and again at age 60. And
interesting.
at
Yeah.
44, things went nuts. And maybe that's why, like, nothing changed and it's your body changing. But if I
Yeah.
wasn't tracking it, I didn't feel any difference. I felt the same. But I was
Right.
shocked when I was like looking at my results. I'm like, oh, wow, like I need to now, I got to evolve. I got to tweak my habits. I got to lock this in more. And if I wasn't looking, I would never have known.
Yeah. I think that's the problem with pretty much all health concerns in the modern day is people have this massive event, right? Hey, this person had a heart attack at 57.
Yeah.
Oh, poor person. Nobody could have seen it happening. Just, I think this rhetoric needs to change completely because it's not that you have a heart attack out of nowhere. It was 20, 30 years of decisions that you were making that compounded. And then your heart was like, all right, I'm just done. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just telling you right now, this is your final chance to not treat me this way anymore. And I'm not even saying this to shame anybody. A lot of people don't even know if it's a good or bad decision, right? Like they're bombarded with marketing from every angle, whether it's fast food to even health food.
Yeah.
You should be keto, you should be vegan, you should be carnivore only, you shouldn't eat, plants can kill you or they're the best thing.
It's a lot of
So
noise. It's a
yeah,
lot of
like people
noise.
don't know. And I think, what you do is what is the root cause? You're looking for the root cause in everybody. That's literally the only way to approach your health is like, let's take a look and actually understand what's happening. And, you wouldn't treat me the same way you would treat a 70-year-old woman.
Right.
It's completely the opposite: metabolism, DNA, lifestyle, right? So it's like none of these things made a lot of sense to me from somebody who had battled two chronic diseases and didn't have any of this technology. And I had to like write notes. And basically, I was like on an analog way tracking what I was doing,
Yeah.
which
We've
as you
all
can
been there.
imagine, yeah,
It's
it's
not
like
fun.
the most inefficient, non-scientific way of doing it, but you hope for the best.
If you love diving into the latest wellness secrets on the podcast, then you're going to want to join my exclusive weekly newsletter. Get insider wellness tips you won't hear anywhere else. Be the first to know about my upcoming fasting workshops because, let's be real, fasting is the secret weapon for surviving perimenopause. Access my weekly essentials, tools, and biohacks to help you thrive in midlife. I promise to make it worth your while, straight to the point, no fluff, just powerful tips to help you feel your best every single week. Don't miss out. Sign up now at thewelldrop.com. Let's take your wellness to the next level together. And so, what was your inspiration behind creating Theia? Like, how is your experience different? Is it the technology?
Yeah. So I'll go all the way back. I'll make it not a long story, but I think the context really matters here.
Yes.
When I was 7, I got diagnosed with asthma. And before that diagnosis, they put me in all these like health camps in these dingy room with all these doctors. It made me hate doctors from an early age because nobody was telling me what are you guys doing? What are you testing for? Can I actually have some information here? And they just kind of said, you have to do all these tests. And then they told me, hey, you have asthma. There's nothing you can do about it. It's most likely genetic. You'll have it for the rest of your life. And now you have to, whenever you have an asthma attack, take these steroids through that inhaler or that puff or whatever you want to call it. And even at the age of 7, I kind of rolled my eyes because I was like, nobody in my family has asthma.
It didn't make sense.
Yeah, I was just like, even at the age of 7, I have some intrinsic thing telling me that I don't think it's genetic. And the irony was, I was living in Germany at that time. We moved to Canada and I was playing a lot of soccer outdoors. There was a lot less smoking in my household because in Europe, like everybody smoked in the early 90s and 80s. It was craziness.
And on airplanes, I'm sure.
On everything, right? So I at that time I was a refugee because I escaped the war. So I was like, there was all these things that were a factor in my health that I think had a lot to do with it versus just it's genetic.
100%.
And the funny story was like by the age of 9, because I was going to a specialist and they would do breathalyzer tests to see how my lung capacity is improving or decreasing. At one point, I got to like the 95th percentile of all lung capacity of kids. And they're like, you're crushing it. You don't have asthma anymore. You can get off all the meds. And to me, that was a first time moment of 1 + 1 did not equal 2, right? Like all these white coats, people way smarter than me with all these advanced degrees told me one thing. And then all of a sudden, by happenstance, it's not like I was, doing these crazy experiments on myself like I do now. I got better. And so that always stuck with me, right? And then when I got to my early 20s, unfortunately, I got a second diagnosis. Like I lost 50 pounds in 3 months. You've
50?
seen me. Yeah, I'm 6'4". You've seen me.
Yeah,
when I lose weight, so I have the opposite problem of most people. When I lose weight, everyone notices. When I gain muscle, nobody knows anything. They're like, you look the same all the time. But when I lose weight,
I'm
they're like,
hard.
yeah, I'm like, come on. It's not fair. Just because my limbs are like 40 feet long. So when I lost 50 pounds, like it's impossible not to react. Like you almost just can't. You just like, are you dying basically? And I didn't know. I was like, look, I'm getting all these tests. It was deja vu. Let's do all these tests. Let's see what's going on. Long story short, I got diagnosed with severe Crohn's disease.
Oh,
and it was
Crohn's disease journey.
Yeah. Right. So my small intestine to my large intestine, that area was almost completely shut due to scar tissue buildup. So I had this very unique problem, which was if I overate, it would get stuck in that area, which resulted in me throwing up for like 16 to 20 to 40 hours.
Oh, wow.
Not because there was anything left. It was just my body's way of saying something is extremely wrong here and we need to evacuate everything. And I always say the lowest moment in my life was like me sleeping on a toilet while throwing up because my body was just in this like state of shock, but I was so tired, right? Like I was like, there's nothing, I can't stay up anymore, and my only savior was go to the ER, get IVs and anti-nausea, and then my body would relax because it was like, hey, we have perfect hydration, perfect nutrition, all the electrolytes are in there.
And no
we don't need to panic. We don't need to panic. We can stop convulsing. So honestly, Amber, my North Star metric, which is like getting nerdy now, is like,
no, I love it.
I was trying to avoid, I was like, my path to success is, can I avoid the times between hospital visits?
Yeah.
So that's how I was tracking if I was getting better. I'm like, the longer the time between the hospital visit, it means something is going right. I don't know what of all the
Did they give
things
you
that I'm.
medicine at that time?
So I did everything. I did had 7 different doctors: functional medicine, naturopath, energy healer, Chinese herbalist, MDs. I'm sure I'm missing a couple there, but I kind of did a smorgasbord because my approach was I don't care who gets me better. I just want to avoid the surgery
Yeah.
because they were like, we might have to cut your intestines out. I'm like, well, I'll either get healthy or I'll die trying, because if you cut my intestines out, I know there's people that have done that and it's helped. I was just desperately trying to avoid that because, yeah, right.
Not that I wanted
Um,
to. I was 14.
yeah.
Mhm.
So this is what I'm saying, right? And it's a scary thought, you don't know, like, I know the lifestyle quality can be extremely high and all these things, but that was my moment. I was like, look, I need to like really take care of this, or I have to have this massive surgery and who knows what happens the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Um, so I did do an immunosuppressant. It was kind of the Western medicine drug. I did different types of diets. I did anything
You
like,
tried it all.
the energy healing. I was drinking this like sludge tea that my herbalist. This was like one of the worst things. It helped. I'm pretty sure it helped, but like you had to like boil this like nasty leaves and herbs for like
Yeah.
5 hours,
Ooh.
and your whole house smelled like it just, you couldn't get it out of the walls. And then you had to twice a day warm it up so it's hot and chug it.
Wow.
And I was just like, oh my goodness, this is absolutely brutal. But I was doing that. I did lots of different diets. I was on naturopathic medicine. I did functional medicine tests. I did the, you hold eggs and they test your arm
Yep.
muscle testing.
Kinesiology.
Yeah. So I did all of those things. Right. And everyone always is like, when I tell this story, they're like, what exact diet should I eat to do what you did? And I was like, I think it was a lot of these things. I don't even know if they all worked. It was just the sheer amount of things I was willing to try,
Yeah.
knowing that, when I sat down, my biggest issue here was if I eat this, there's like a 50% chance I end up in the hospital. And as you know, even better than me, if you're already worried about the food and like anxious about it, it's not going to digest as well. I already have digestive issues.
Yeah.
So I'm in this like predicament all the time at that stage of my life where I'm trying to make the best decisions possible. And I really was frustrated because my doctors would have different philosophies, right? Hey, you should fast because you want to give your stomach
A rest.
a rest so it doesn't inflame. And then another doctor was like, no, eat every 10 minutes. So at least you have energy throughout the day
Oh boy.
and get better and get some of your weight back. I'm like, logically, you could argue both of those, like,
Easily.
right,
Yeah.
right? Because you're like, if I listened to one and not the other, I would have just done that and said, okay, like that's the path to go. So having these unique perspectives, everyone was trying to be helpful, but then you don't know until you test them, right?
Yep.
And this is where I had, when I mentioned to you, if somebody doesn't know or doesn't feel it or is not prone to understanding what's going on in their body, at some point I was just like, I felt sick all day. So I got used to it. So then my only like understanding was, am I gaining weight back and not hitting the emergency room, right? Like those were the big events. If I was like losing a lot of weight or I was hitting the emergency room, I knew it wasn't going well. And to really wrap this up, I got past it, started traveling the world again. I was eating anything I wanted to eat, including like
Wow.
street food in Thailand off, spicy
It's
and
major.
cheese. Yeah. So it's like everything I shouldn't be able to eat.
Yeah.
And that was the second time in my life that I was like, man, this was a really terrible experience. Like I fought for my life on my own accord against even people trying to help me just to make sense of what's going on. And to loop this back to Theia, I think ever since, especially that second time, I've had this want of, I would be really cool to understand, not cool, but like very useful to understand what's going on in my body if I had technology and things that could help me. And so I actually went into advertising technology, ad tech, where I learned that technology is so advanced. Like I know everything you do online. I can track every ad that you've clicked on, every website, how long you've been on there, what your intent is if you were frustrated reading the page, like this is how
Crazy.
good the technology is. And so my greatest realization was we should, as a humanity, be utilizing this type of technology on our biology,
Yeah.
right? I should be able to say, hey, in 20 years, how's my health going to be, given the decisions that I'm making and how my body's responding to those. If we can do it with advertising, why not on our biology? There's as many variables, if not more, on advertising as there is on our biological being. You could argue this here or there, right? But all I'm saying is
Yeah, like
there's
there's such
sophisticated.
amazing tech out there. Like it
Yeah,
makes common sense of like why can't we use it for our
exactly,
biology?
right? So I've always had the idea for Theia, and it wasn't until the glucose monitors became cheap enough. Before they were like thousands of dollars
Yeah,
each.
they were
So,
not accessible.
right. And it was not that good, and they lasted like 2 days, the first one. So, who's going to pay like $30,000 to monitor the blood sugar levels?
Nobody.
Nobody, right? Even the most rich people, like it's still annoying to have to put them on every 2 days and pay that price point. But when they became a lot more accessible and better and could last, 2 weeks at a time, and they were declassified was the big thing. They were
Yeah,
they
when
were
was that?
about 2017,
Okay.
2018, they were declassified. So like 6, 7 years ago, they were declassified to a level 2 FDA device. So that means the scrutiny around them, in case people don't know, if you're a level 3 device and you prescribe it, the scrutiny for a doctor is astronomical. Like any little thing, you can get sued to the Stone Age because of malpractice. But level 2 is like just above over the counter, etc. And in a lot of countries, they became over the counter. So that's when I was like, hey, I think Theia has legs now because it's a real biomarker that is directly correlated to your metabolic health
Yep.
that we can get always on data on. And so my thought process was these are medical companies making a medical device to dose drugs, but we can use that technology
Use it for good.
for good for anybody to see what's going on. And what the key was, I knew that nobody would use it if it's hard to interpret, if they had to understand the science, if they couldn't correlate things easily. Like if you ask somebody, what did you eat last Tuesday for breakfast? Most of the time they're like, I have no idea. Right. So it's like, how would you in context know how your glucose is correlating to your health? So we built an initial version of Theia, the software layer. And our goal was to really empower practitioners to have this new unity with their clients where they could see their clients' data at all times. That way they know if the care plan's working, if that person's following the care plan, they can intervene before even seeing them. And the client experience would be, hey, Amber gave me this plan and I'm seeing results and everything that I do in real time. So that was kind of the first layer of Theia. I always call that our first
Beta.
use case, but the essence of Theia is we want to build the operating system for biology.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. No, I mean, CGMs are kind of becoming everywhere right now.
Yeah,
Like Aura just partnered with, I believe it's Stilo. And then I just saw
yeah,
Levels, I think is using Stilo. But most women still have never tried one. And that's part of my mission to get every woman to throw one on just for 2 weeks. And I created the Midlife Reset to really educate women on why do you need one? What does it tell you? And to make it not overwhelming, because a
yeah.
lot of times there is just so much data, but you don't know what to do. How would you
Correct.
sum up like how Theia differentiates itself in terms of, from a data standpoint so that it's actually useful data?
Yeah, absolutely. The first like year and a half of our company, we really focused on creating an easy to understand score, both like daily. So what is your daily metabolic score? And the way we did that was we score you from 0 to 100, and there's a circle around that number that goes from red, yellow to green. This was done on purpose because everybody since grade 1 knows, hey, 100 is the best score I can
It's
get, right? Like
great.
it's something that you understand.
Very
Uh,
relatable.
right. And the other part was if you're in the red, you need to stop and pay attention. So if you're like at a 50 out of 100, hey, you should really pay attention. Like what's going on here? Can we make an immediate change to do something positive for your health.
And just to be clear, because for most people who have never even put one on, like all you get is a chart typically. Like there's no other
Yeah.
information for other ones that you might try. Because I actually just had a meeting with a client over the weekend and we went through her data with
Yeah.
one of the other ones and she's like, "What is this?" And her thing was spiking like crazy at nighttime. And I was like, "Well, what did you have?" And like you just said, I
Yeah.
don't know, because you have to also manually input your food if you want to sort of try to go back and see what you ate to
Yeah.
where the spike was. And then an added layer for yours is amazing is that you just can do a one touch quick picture of your food. You don't have to write anything.
Yeah. That was the other thing we pushed, which is like everybody hates logging
Yes.
anything,
I
right?
never
Like,
did it. I was like, I just remembered analog days. I would write it down in my
yeah,
notes.
exactly. And so I used my Fitness Pal religiously for a long time, especially when I was doing something where I needed to track. Like I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro 2.5 years ago. I was religious about my nutrition intake. What, like, because I didn't want to go climb the tallest mountain in Africa and not be prepared. Like,
That's amazing.
why would you waste your life doing that, right? So, but the problem is, it's like as soon as you're at a restaurant, as soon as you're traveling, as if you're not eating the same meals, it is so tedious. You don't know how much oil is being put in something if you're not. So if you're not like constantly cooking and preparing, and if you have any variety at all, you're just basically a robot logging things.
Yeah.
People absolutely hate that experience, right? And it drives them crazy. So we came out with a system where we're using AI just to take a photo. Off that photo, we give the calories, the macronutrients, the ingredients, and the micronutrients. So at the very least, it's one click now, and you get a 90% accuracy on the meals that you're eating. And then those get scored. So anything that you're logging gets its own score. How did your personal body respond to that input? And that's it. That's really the only thing you have to do, right? And it makes it easy for a client to actually use the technology. It makes it accessible for them. They understand what's going on. And then when they're meeting with you, their provider, you both can say, hey, these things didn't do so well. Here's how we adjust them, right? Versus a lot of providers, you can correct me if I'm wrong, like when you're speaking with a client, you're trying to get updates on what's been going on, right? How have you been doing? Has your diet been, sleep? And a lot of the time, unfortunately, these answers are like, my sleep's been pretty good, or I've been okay. And it's like, what does that mean?
It's very
And
general. It's too
yeah,
generalized. Like, in order to make,
yeah,
like, real deep impact, you sort of
yeah.
wanna see sort of like a peek behind the curtain.
Uh-huh.
And what's great with this technology is that I'm able to see on the back end, and it makes it so easy for me to be able to also make the most of our meeting time, right? Like, time is
Exactly.
valuable and people have limited amounts of time. So we can like set the meeting. I already know like what I'm going to say. I already have everything ready to review. And then it's really more just like a review of like, all right, do XYZ and then you'll report back and then we can have a follow-up on it instead of asking a million and one questions trying to figure it out. And it's really a puzzle. We are putting the pieces to the puzzle together regardless, but
Yeah.
this is an element that really helps to like it's a big piece of the puzzle that's filling that gap for sure.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, they focus on one or the other. So they're like, oh, this is good for their practitioner, but it has to be good for the client too, right? It has to be easy. This is so overlooked in a lot of products. Like it's really good for one, but not the other. And so we were very mindful of how do we make it a good experience for both, because to me that's a sacred relationship. I've had a lot of doctors. I have a doctor now that I work with. I trust them, and like the more context they have on me, the better our conversations go. So that was really an important piece.
Yeah, and I think the most exciting part is it really allows you to own your wellness. Like, and I love how simple it is that you are getting a score. And so it kind of gives you a barometer of like, was today a good day or not that great of a day? And not that the score has to like always be the guiding light, but like when you
Yeah.
are looking at the data and you've never looked at your sugar before, it's all new. It can feel overwhelming. And I think that the setup of it is so simple. It's so familiar that it removes that kind of
Yeah.
intimidation of like this new device that you're using. I just ordered one for my father, who's 81, is going to give it a try. So
Nice.
if
Nice.
he can do it, anyone can do it. 'Cause he calls himself sometimes a tech dinosaur. So
Yeah.
it's so easy. I was showing him how it is, and he was like, "All right, let's do it." Like, completely open-minded. I think that it
I love
doesn't
that.
feel intimidating, and that's probably one of the biggest barriers for most people for trying new things, right? It feels kinda scary, but this is,
Absolutely.
if anything, exciting. Like, I get excited by it. I get When we met, I was, like, so jazzed. I'm like, "Oh, this is giving so much more than what I'm currently getting as a user." Like, I was wanting more information on myself so that I could just keep optimizing and doing a better job instead of dealing with it, sort of like writing down the notes. Sometimes I forgot to write it down, another time I would.
Totally.
It was kind of a mess. Um,
Yep.
so how do you, like, if you can walk us through maybe the actual, like, dashboard, how do we, like, use this data to know, like, sort of what to do next? Like,
Yeah.
are there advice that's given on there, like generic advice? Like, what are the next steps
For the provider or for the
for the
client?
user? Like, if the
Yeah. So
user is like, "Okay,
yeah.
I've tracked my food. I see
Yep.
my score."
Yep. Perfect. So obviously, like in that point in time, if you scored poorly on something and you're going to eat it again, or you're going to do that activity again, or you're going to try a meditation, you can log anything because it's not just food. I want to reiterate that. You can log anything because what we're doing is we're looking at your body's response to an event or an activity that you did. And so you can try those things again and see if you score better. So that's kind of the easiest way day to day to use it. On a weekly basis, we do send a metabolic report. In that metabolic report, we give you your best performers, your worst performers, and an overall trend line. So are you doing better this week versus last week? If you're doing better, that means keep going.
Yeah.
You're doing the right things, you're improving. If you're doing worse, it's a good reminder to now look at, okay, what were the things that I didn't score so well on, and then how do I improve those? And that could be, you know going to you, Amber, and being like, hey, this is part of this care plan, how do we improve it? Or these are the things that I'm doing that I'm not scoring as good on. And now you have a pointed direction and focus on what you're going to talk about versus not really knowing or understanding where your health's at.
I love that. I just was having conversation to I like people to come prepared for their appointments with
Yeah.
questions. So I think that that is perfect that you said that, that it allows you to come with some questions to ask instead of just, you're not working blind anymore. Like, the data is like in your hands. And if you just take a second to take a look at it, like, you have to actually pay attention to it,
Yeah.
that it will create some really good questions. Because I think you just added a few new things to it. Because obviously you could take the pictures of your food, but there are some logging options if you want to go deeper.
Yeah. We just launched, we call it like a time-based activity. So if you're doing a fast, maybe you're doing a 72-hour fast or 24-hour fast, you can log that now and it'll show on the graph and show how your metabolism responded during the fast.
Love it.
You can log sleep. So if you're like, hey, I went to bed at 10, woke up at 6, you can now click on that click on that 8-hour period, and we'll also score that and show you how your metabolism was doing. We already had this technology because we do a daily score, metabolic score. So any time period, we can use that same algorithm and AI approach. We have some really cool things. I don't know when this is going live, but we're actually going to be pushing a multi-course function now, which means, if you eat like a salad and then your main and then a dessert,
Yeah.
those were typically one individual thing on a graph and they were
Right.
scored individually. But now with AI, we're going to know, hey, these were one meal. So how did that meal in total respond? And then you can look at the individual things and how they contributed. So we're trying to always improve the experience and make it more and more intuitive and logical on how it's going, and also expand on bigger timelines to and things that you're working on to show you how those are impacting your health and body.
I love that. When I saw the fasting, because I help to coach people on how to fast with your cycle.
Yeah,
And so that really excited me because fasting for everyone is different. So, fasting with your cycle is a great way to sort of like tune into your hormones. I believe that you shouldn't be eating the same every day. We sort of kind of get in this routine where most of us just
sure.
do the same thing every day. And when you connect to your cycle and work with it, it's
Yeah.
amazing to be able to see how did that fast work for you or against you. And then maybe
Hmm.
for somebody who isn't eating, connecting their eating to their cycle yet, it can maybe show them that you actually need to do so because of how your blood sugar
100%.
is responding, because the hormones are going to also affect your blood sugar. So I think it's
Yeah.
really exciting for women and such a powerful tool.
I think that's the best, demographic is like women over 40, not only because of the hormonal changes, but the cycles.
Yeah.
We've seen like over and over again the most amount of insights in those demographics, right? Because there's a lot of things that are happening where if you're paying attention, you can easily make even like seemingly small adjustments have a huge impact.
Oh, I love that you said that. I couldn't agree more. I was going to
Yeah.
ask, you see so many glucose patterns. Is
Yeah.
there one common mistake that you see often that you wish somebody would stop doing? Like, do you see any sort of like patterns? Do you get to study like how people's blood sugar is? Is there anything that's kind of a standout to share?
Yeah. I think most people always think that food is the thing that drives glucose. And I want to really reiterate whoever's listening, a lot of things impact your glucose. Like just because you ate a meal that doesn't have any carbs doesn't mean you didn't have a inflammatory reaction to that food. If that inflammatory reaction does happen, your glucose will spike. So it's not that the carb load was too high for you and therefore you're creating insulin and all that stuff. It's that you might have been inflamed and now your body's producing energy to fight off that inflammation because it didn't agree with what you put in your body. So I know I used food, even though I'm saying it might not be food, but I'm just saying it in a different way of thinking about it. Alternatively, there's been lots of people that, their glucose spikes or it's high. And then the provider's like, what were you doing? And they find out they were stressed, right? They
Yes.
were hanging out with the wrong person that stresses them out all the time. They were reading a Twitter thread that really made them upset. They were watching the news, which notoriously is negative driven because that's what we are drawn to as humans. So a lot of things can impact the glucose. So it's not just, am I diabetic? Am I not diabetic? Am I eating too many carbs? Am I not eating too many carbs? It's actually to some extent irrelevant.
Multi-layered. Yeah, how you sleep affects your blood
Yeah,
sugar and how
exactly.
that regulates. Stress is a huge one. I
Huge
think
one.
that's why it's so important to throw it on just to see how your body's responding. Because again, those are the things you're not feeling your sugar, like, right. We used to think it's just a headache, but
Right.
it's so much more layered than that, that it's great that you can actually catch something because maybe you know that you ate super healthy and good and you're like you have to actually think one step more like, oh, did I just like have a bad meeting or a phone call before I had
100%.
my meal, like
Yep.
something like that. And to see how sometimes your food pairings, like what used to not spike your sugar, eating the same thing, if it's starting to spike it now, like, okay, you need to like focus on that. And how could you maybe add some fat? Like, do those, I always call it the midlife experiment. Experiment with yourself. See if
Yeah.
adding fat helps to lower it. And just keep like getting curious and playful. Like, it doesn't have to feel so serious and like it's a negative thing. It's actually like a fun, it's like an adult toy.
That's right. That's a great way to put it. Yeah. I
It's like
like
you're
that one.
gaming your own body, right?
Yep.
Where do you see the glucose, CGM tech going in the next few years? What do you see as the future?
I do think we'll iterate on it. I know there's a bunch of companies that we're talking to that are working on like a patch that you take off like a ring or a watch and charge it, and it doesn't actually pierce the skin. And it can last, maybe up to a year. So I do feel like we're going to get more accurate and longer lasting ways to measure it, which would be amazing because then it's easier to measure over a long period of time, right? I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of value in trying it even for 2 weeks and getting understanding that way. Uh, a lot more value if you do it longer and have pattern maps over months versus weeks, just because you can really nail
Be
down things.
amazing. You can have these charts. I mean, it's
That's the thing, right? It's like, and then you can actually predict the future of health because you have enough data to go off of that. So there's other sensors that are supposed to come out in the market. I don't like to promise these things because these companies are excited. They want to partner with us. Notoriously, it always takes longer than it should. FDA approvals
yeah.
take a ton of time. So I'm very, I think there's no going back, right? Like we're going to
This
keep
is the
going towards,
future.
yeah, like we're going to have health data and we're going to make decisions on our health data in one way or another.
And what can you talk a little bit about the difference in the technology? Because you helped to educate me on why was mine falling off all the time. It was definitely more
Yeah.
bulky versus this one is thinner. Can you explain a little bit about the differences so people
Yeah,
can
so
understand?
now there is some over-the-counter options, which we're looking at integrating eventually, because they are cheaper than the prescription grade CGMs. Notoriously, the problem is because we work with providers, if the technology is not excellent and reliable, then if you're on a care plan, the worst thing is the sensor falls off before it's supposed to, it stops working. You were just in the middle of a optimization,
Yeah.
right? You were just part of a care plan. So my highest priority is how do we make sure that the provider and the client have a great experience, as I know that they're working on something very important. So this is why we're still doing the prescription only sensors. They are the most robust in terms of data accuracy. They also last longer. The over the counter ones, unfortunately, what they did was they took old technology and pared down the battery to make them last longer. So we're seeing like 35% failure rates before the end date.
Yeah.
And
That
that's
was me.
really, yeah, it's really
Many times too. It
yeah,
wasn't just once or twice.
right. So in the lens of like you're working with a provider, you're part of a care plan, you paid money to optimize your health, you're adhering to something and you want to do a good job, but the technology is going to fail you 1 in 3 times. That's not going to work, right? And then we make the provider look bad because that's what we're pushing.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're lower cost, and I think the low cost sensors are excellent at getting the mass markets interested in trying it, right? That's great, but like when you're really dialing something in, we make sure we have the best sensor with the highest accuracy, and we can, those are still the prescription ones. They're
Yeah.
also thinner, so there's less of a chance of you hitting it off.
Yeah.
Less bulky, lower footprint, especially in the women. They like the smaller footprint, so it doesn't look like this massive thing on your arm.
Yes. I
Um,
prefer it. I think that that's helpful. And do you think
yeah.
eventually it'll be able to track ketones as well?
Yeah, there's already prototypes that are doing this.
That's
So
what
there's
I would like.
sensors that just do ketones and then there's two-in-ones.
Yeah.
We're very close to some of these companies because, we built software that makes this stuff actionable. So whatever the best hardware is, we're happy to integrate.
Exciting. I think it's amazing conversation, really. Thank you so much for helping to create just such a great product, both for the consumer and for the practitioner. To close out our conversation today, what is one drop of wellness wisdom you like to leave with our listeners today?
I think I'll keep it simple. Whatever you're doing, just make sure it's data driven when you're doing something for your health, right? And I think it is cool to explore in your own body, but having somebody who's seen what you're going through, like an Amber practitioner, that's been the most helpful thing I've done. Even though I said I had like 7 doctors at once, all of them taught me something. I still have a doctor, I still have a health coach. Like even with all the tech that I have, it just pinpoints where I should be focusing on, and everything is data driven and it's personalized to me. And I think nowadays it's easier for you to do that than ever. So even if you're not doing a CGM, whether it's labs, etc., that's the best starting point. I always give that advice.
I love that. Thank you so much for being on the Well Drop today. And
Thanks,
we
Amber.
will put a link in the show notes so you can order your own CGM. We have a partnership, Theia and the Well Drop. And if you want to dive even deeper, you could do the midlife resets and also sign up for drops of wellness wisdom delivered Sunday to your inbox at thewelldrop.com.